Buddy, what is going on? The catch. Fam, I hope you guys are doing phenomenal tonight. Hope everyone has had a great weekend. Hope you guys are ready for another live 2024 fantasy football mock draft here at the catch with you guys with the catch. Fam, we're gonna have some fun tonight. We're gonna talk some fantasy football. We got one spot left, so hopefully someone grabs that shortly. Link is live on Discord, and I will get it in the chat in just a moment here on YouTube as well for anyone who wants to try and grab that last spot. But until that spot is taken, we are just going to sit back and relax. Let me just get one or two things done here. All right, we should have everything good to go for the stream. And let me get this pulled up. And never mind, Z Fighter takes a spot just in time. So let's do this thing. Let's not waste any time. All right, let me set the draft order. Oops, I'll use this screen. Sorry. There we go. Wow, I stayed at the 1.1. Really? Okay. 1.1 it is. Let's do it, gentlemen. Let me get the sound turned off and I'll just go C-Mac. Sure. All right. Hope you guys are doing great. And let's talk some fantasy football. Let me go ahead and just get one last message or final warning out here that it's draft has started. But I feel like everyone's here. All right, so we should be all set. Don't want anyone to miss their first round pick. All right, good to see you guys. What's up? All right, JSC, good to see you. What's up, Emil? Cats, good to see everybody. Chase, how y'all doing? All right, which quarterbacks do you really like this year? I like Mahomes and Stroud a lot this year, personally. I mean, I don't dislike Mahomes or Stroud by any stretch. That's for sure. But I would say, for me, when it comes to the quarterback position, generally, I'm going to be looking at value, like in terms of ADP over anything else. So, in best ball and underdog, like, yeah, I'll be drafting guys like Mahomes and Stroud on a little bit more of a regular basis. But in terms of like your regular, like redraft, home leagues and everything, um, I'm going to go for more value players right now. So when we look at ADP right now, I do like Stroud, but he's just continuing to like rise up on draft boards. And I mean, he's already at a point where he's going kind of like, it depends on the draft, but right now his ADP is 41.8. So he can go anywhere from like the 4th to 6th round. Just depends on the draft itself, right? But I'm looking at guys like Dak Prescott, Kyler Murray, Jordan Love as like the top tier that I kind of want to target if I'm going like that's early for me. If I get one of those guys, their ADP, Dak is at 76.1, Kyler's at 82.6, and J Lo is at 84.9. So I like that tier. I like those three guys a lot. But if I miss that tier, then I'm okay with Brock Purdy. I'm okay with Tua. I'm okay with Goff. I would kind of say that's my next tier, so to speak. At some point, you've got, like Caleb Williams sprinkled in there, and you've got Jaden Daniels probably sprinkled in there as well. But I don't know. I feel like if I'm going to draft one of those guys, then I'm definitely drafting a second quarterback behind them as well. But I do think like this is a good year when you're looking at like kind of that, if you want to go QB2, um, Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, even Justin Herbert, even Aaron Rodgers, Matthew Stafford, like this is a year where you can draft two quarterbacks and be okay at the end of the day. So it just kind of depends. For me, though, we have seen a lot of quarterbacks kind of fall back against their given ADP. So it just kind of depends on the draft that you're in. and for me, it's going to be just about the best value. But yeah, I think Mahomes is going to have a great year. I was talking about that actually was with Steven last night. Um, and I think this might be one of the best Mahomes offenses we've ever seen, as long as everyone stays healthy. Like I'm not worried about Rasheed Rice. You guys know that. I think it's going to be a light suspension. I think realistically, it'll be like a 6 game suspension initially. I think it'll be down to like 3 or 4 games. I'm not worried about the Rasheed Rice situation like ruining the Chiefs offense by any stretch. But I do think there's a lot of value in the fact that Rasheed Rice has already been in that system for a full season and was very, very consistent, has a good connection, good chemistry with Patty Mahomes. I think those things are huge. Where when we look at Xavier Worthy, he's a rookie. It's going to take him some time to kind of get acclimated to a difficult offense. And Hollywood Brown, great, talented wide receiver, but hasn't been in this system before. So I do think there's something to be said about that. And of course, Travis Kelsey's going to catch the football, all that good stuff. Pacheco, not really like a big pass catching back, but Pacheco's going to get plenty of touches this season, I think, as well. So, with all that being said, though, like when all three of these wide receivers are on the field, Kelsey's on the field, and the run game is there, I think it's going to be just a very difficult offense to defend. At times was a difficult offense to defend last season, and they're limited playmakers, right? This is a tough pick right here. I mean, Adams. Don't feel. Give me Henry. I almost went triple running back. Almost went with 2 wide receivers there. Tough picks, but we'll go kind of bounce back. RB wide receiver, RB. Then we'll try and get a wide receiver in the 4th. Then RB in the 5th, I guess. We'll see. But yeah, and then Stroud. So Emil comes here in the chat, says Stroud will bust this year. And this is like one thing that I actually feel like when the offseason began, people were like, it was like Stroud is the guy, like in terms of like a quarterback who can crack into like the top 2, top 3 this season. Like all signs point towards Stroud, right? But now as the offseason has gone on, like I feel like there's more of a narrative of the potential for CJ Stroud and not just CJ Stroud, but the Houston Texans offense to kind of flatline and potentially not be as good as everyone thinks they're going to be. Like sometimes you see these offenses and sometimes defenses too, but we're talking fantasy, but offenses in the offseason who like everything looks so good on paper. Like this is the year, and then like a big injury happens, or they just nothing like really meshes, right? And it just doesn't come together. So, obviously the big team last year would have been the Jets, right? But like that's not really like a fair comparison because if someone gets injured, it's like, well, that's I don't know, like it's hard to really use that as an example here, right? Um, but I think that the Texans offense can easily still be one of the best offenses in the NFL this year, right? And I think the other team to kind of look at would be like the Falcons. Like right now, the Falcons look really, really good on paper. Like there's a lot in terms of like fantasy output that we have expectations for, right? With Kirk Cousins going there, and Arthur Smith has been dragging down this offense for X amount of years, whatever. And still, like, you have so much talent between Drake London, Kyle Pitts, and Bijan Robinson, but this is still one of those divisions in football that's like really interesting. Like the Saints always kind of linger around. Feels like last year maybe that's starting to fade away a little bit. But the Bucks, I still think like the Bucks like don't really look that different on paper at all compared to last year, right? And it's just one of those divisions where you know the teams are just competitive with one another on a regular basis. But a lot of people are just pointing towards the Falcons to just completely like take over. And then obviously the Panthers are like, the Panthers, I don't expect them to make a ton of, progress forward, but I do think, uh, they have a great, head coaching hire in this offseason, right? You did draft a lot of weapons for Bryce Young. You went out and got Deontay Johnson. Like they should improve. It's going to be hard to not improve, but I think that the Falcons could be another team that falls into this kind of web of like everything looks really good on paper going into the year, but does it really come together? But from a pure fantasy perspective, um, yeah, I think the Falcons will be fine, but that's kind of besides the point here. We're talking Stroud, right? I just went on a tangent about the Falcons for no reason, but um, they just kind of remind me of like they're in the same potential type situation as the Texans are right now. But the Texans O line is probably the biggest problem here. Like I think Joe Mixon's going to be good. I think Damian Pierce is going to contribute to this offense. And like I'm not worried about a lot of people are just really getting hung up on like you got Collins, you got Dell, and you got Diggs. Like there's a lot of mouths to feed, but like I don't know, like that's not a bad thing. It's not always great for fantasy, but sometimes it is good from a fantasy perspective as well. Like, you know, there's I think it's going to affect the consistency of these three players when they're all healthy. I do think there's a large potential that one of these guys or more than one of these guys has injuries throughout the year. Like Dell was hurt last year. Collins has an injury history. All wide receivers have injury history, right? So there's potential for that too. But when all three guys are on the field, like it's just gonna be really difficult for defenders to defend all these guys. So like that affects Tank Dell, it affects Nico Collins, it affects Stephon Diggs, it affects Dalton Schultz, and to a degree, it's gonna affect like Joe Mixon's fantasy output. Like how many touchdowns can he realistically rush for? So but that's all besides the point when we're looking purely at CJ Stroud. So Stroud in his rookie season, 23 passing touchdowns, 5 picks, 3 rushing touchdowns, 167 yards on the ground. I mean, Stroud's not a rushing quarterback, right? Stands in the pocket. He was the QB 11, missed 2 games. So I think naturally we should see. I mean, everything's there for Stroud to make that next step forward, right? Um, but right now, if he's going as a QB 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, that's still a pretty large leap. So it's definitely interesting. Sorry, let me go cup and flowers. So I don't know. I'm not out on CJ Stroud by any means. It's just I think it's a really interesting conversation because a lot of people are bringing this up at this point in the off season, but I'm not really worried about it. It's just one of those things where it's like we're gonna go like really in on this offense to begin the off season. A lot of people are gonna talk about this offense. Then the off season is gonna progress, and then you're gonna have some people who are a little like, I'm not 100% there, and then they're gonna kind of like come to happy median, so to speak. So we'll see, but I'm still drafting a good amount of Texans players, and I personally still like Nico the best. Diggs fell back to the 3.11 tonight. Like I still don't have a problem drafting Diggs, but I still like Dell the best in the 4th round in terms of given value. But when we're in that kind of tier in the 2nd round there, 2.9, 2.10, 2.11, 2.12, like I'm not really crazy about any wide receiver right there anyways. So I'm happy that Collins is going right there because he's the guy that I'm most consistently drafting after like Drake London, Marvin Harrison Jr., and Chris Olave are all off the board. And I don't dislike Ayuk, Waddle, Adams, or even Debo or Evans, but I actually probably feel the best about Collins out of that tier. And I do like the Texans offense this year. So we'll see how things kind of continue to progress in terms of that conversation moving into August. Tucci, good to see you, my dude. What's up? Emil likes Goff. And yeah, Goff I think is a great value right now. I think you have some really interesting quarterbacks, like not really getting a lot of recognition going into this coming year. Tua was a QB9. Goff was the QB7. And Purdy was the QB6. So I don't really see any of those quarterbacks' respective offenses like changing this season. So I'm really happy at where you can get all those guys at their given ADP. Goff, like maybe there's the argument that I don't know, like some people don't like Jameson Williams as his wide receiver too. But I'm not like one of those people. I'm pretty high on Jameson Williams. So I'm not worried about it. And obviously Laporta is probably the largest or technically the wide receiver 2 on that team. But yeah, I like Goff. I like that whole tier of quarterbacks. Which wide receivers do you think will eat like champions in the form of targets? It's a good question. I mean, if we want to like take out like let's just take out all the first round guys because I think all those guys are going to be target hogs, like but I think Chris Olave is being really under valued in that respect going into this coming season. 138 targets last year. I don't really see that number changing. Um, I think Adams is another guy that I have my issues with Adams, but he still had 175 targets last year and 180 targets the year before, 169 2021. So don't have any issues with that. Mike Evans going in the third, had 136 targets last year. And I do like Chris Godwin. I do think he's going to be more implemented into that offense this season, but I still think Evans is going to be a baller. Michael Pittman, another guy in the third round, 156 targets last year, 141 the year before. I think Pittman being really undervalued. Christian Kirk's probably got to be on that list for me. He missed time last year. So just 85, but 133 the year before. And, this wide receiver core no longer is Calvin Ridley, although, Evan Ingram's there and you have other names like Gabe Davis, whatever. And you got Brian Thomas Jr. there now. But yeah, those probably be the guys that first come to mind. And then Zay Flowers, like another player that, had 108 targets, so a little bit lower. But I think Flowers is going to step into that true like wide receiver 1 type role and not really have a choice. When you look at this roster, like, Andrews is there. Don't get me wrong. I think Henry's going to be a huge part of this offense this year. But then like Rashad Bateman, Latavius Walker, Nelson Aguilar, like Isaiah Likely still there. I just don't really feel good about anyone else on that offense. So I think PPR wise, Zay Flowers is going to have a really big year, and coincidentally drafted him tonight as well. So, all right, I got to get a running back before the drop off happens. So Tony Pollard, Raheem Mostert, whatever. I'll draft one of these guys. I'm a little bit higher on Mostert right now. I don't dislike Tony Pollard, but I have drafted just a ridiculous amount of Tony Pollard, it feels like this year. There's a couple players I like here, but let's just take a shot on Xavier Worthy. Okay. Interesting team for me tonight. I keep getting the 1.1 or the 1.2 when I draft with you guys, and I'm just like, I don't know. I always come out with a team that it's fine. It'll be fine. It'll be fine. I just never feel great. All right. Kat says, so hard for Stroud to be a top 4 to 5 quarterback without any rushing production. That's true. You look at Allen last year, 524 yards on the ground, but 15 rushing touchdowns. And Hurts also had 15 rushing touchdowns, 605 rushing yards. Lamar, obviously, 821 yards on the ground. That was his best rushing season since 2020. 5 rushing touchdowns. So, those guys are going to be up there, right? And then we got Mahomes, Stroud. If we're just going by ADP, Mahomes, Stroud, Richardson, and Mahomes has like a big balance, I guess. It's just tough. And he didn't have any rushing touchdowns last year, which kind of hurt his fantasy. I mean, he was a QB8 last year in fantasy, right? So it'd be interesting to see Mahomes, because Mahomes runs in the playoffs and runs in big moments. But I just think there's that balance there of this is Patrick Mahomes. You know what I mean? He's at a point in his career where taking that risk is just not as viable. But Richardson kind of creeps up in that conversation because of the rushing upside. But yeah, I think the dark horse has got to be Kyler Murray, because a fully healthy Kyler Murray, now with the wide receiver 1, you got some weapons at wide receiver 2, weapons, loose phrasing here. We got Michael Wilson, Zay Jones, Greg Dortch, Trey McBride at tight end is going to be a baller. We know this. And you got Connor and Benson. You have an offense in place here. I think Kyler Murray is kind of the dark horse guy if we're looking at rushing upside to be the guy who creeps up in there. But Quarterback is just never as simple as like a lot of people think it is going into the regular season. We always have this idea of like a solidified top five quarterbacks, and it just very rarely works out. Like I think Allen and Hurts, Lamar should be the first three because of that rushing upside. But man, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of guys you can squeeze up into the top eight without even like us really realizing that they have that potential. Uh-oh. Carolina Panthers equal 2024 NFC South Division champs. My spicy hot take. Had to lose my jacket because of it. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the Panthers are going to improve this coming season for sure. But they're not going to win that division. But I mean, here's the thing, right? Is like there's usually some team that just creeps in there. I mean, you look at the Texans last year, like no one expected the Texans to win that division with Stroud at quarterback, and I was a Jaguars believer. Um, some people even like the Colts, and some people not a lot, but some people still will end up arguing for the Titans. But once again, that's a division going in this year, the AFC South, where I'm like, I don't know. I think that I do like the Texans, but there's still some teams there, and I think the NFC South is another weird division, right? But I'm not going to go that far and say the Panthers are going to win it. I actually like the Bucks, right? I still like the Bucks to win that division. I don't really believe in the Falcons' defense. I don't think the Bucks have a great defense either. But Albert was good, bro. JC, not gonna lie, I'm starting to lose faith in Jordan Love. He doesn't have a true number one wide receiver. Well, I would argue that Christian Watson can be a true number one wide receiver. He's just never healthy, and that's the big question going in this year is the reporting is he's found a solution to his hamstring injuries. And I think a healthy Christian Watson with Jaden Reed, Romeo Dobbs, and Tavion Wicks on the field, plus other good skill position players like Luke Musgrave, Josh Jacobs, and even Marshawn Lloyd, maybe AJ Dillon. I don't know why we're mentioning AJ Dillon in this conversation, but maybe could allow Christian Watson to really play like a true number one wide receiver. But I don't see any reason to be out on Jordan Love. Like that's a player that it was QB5 last year in fantasy, and I think the Packers. You guys know I like the Packers this year. So, and just for the reason I said, like you just have good young playmakers on this team. So, I will draft Christian Watson here for sure. And then I guess I'll go Gus the Bus here. I'll go Javonte Williams actually. Both are fine there. But yeah, it's like if you're losing faith in J-Lo, like it's like, he's still going at an ADP of 84.9. So there's plenty of options there. You got Kyler right before him, then after him, you got Caleb Williams, Brock Purdy, Tua, Goff, Jaden Daniels. Like there's options. Beard, good to see you. What's up? What's up? Thank you for coming out. Let me introduce you to Dontavion Wicks. Some people think Dontavion Wicks is the wide receiver one on this team. So, there are definitely enough playmakers on this team that and I get what you're saying. Like, if there's not a true number one wide receiver to line up, then that affects things. But also, sometimes just having a plethora of good playmakers in general is enough. So, I know I think J-Lo will be fun. But also, like when we're looking at these quarterbacks that finished like kind of that top 8 range last year that maybe we didn't expect or not everyone expected to, you also have to expect. Sorry, I'm not trying to use that word 100 times, but some of these guys are going to regress from last year too. So we have to keep that in mind. We'll see who it is. Caleb, I'm in a 32 team draft right now. It's taking forever. How does that even work? Explain. I've heard you guys do this type of thing before, but how does your respective league work? Let me know. My other dynasty league, I have 4 first round picks this year. Like you're doing no, I guess that wouldn't make sense. Or maybe are you doing a startup draft or is this a current team? Patty Mahomes at the 7.7 should be illegal. Yeah, and I mean, like, really, respective to this draft, it's not that crazy. Because he's still the fourth quarterback gone. This is just a really light quarterback draft through the first 7 rounds. Like, so I mean, like, if we had like Stroud, Richardson, and Burrow all go between that range, it would maybe be crazy. But he, like I said, he's still the fourth quarterback off the draft board. It's just everyone's going wide receiver, running back, tight end, um, filling up those flex spots, skill position guys before they're going quarterback. So it probably won't happen on draft day, but it happened in today's draft. Baker Mayfield, I'm expecting him to be horrible this year without Dave Canales. So yeah, and I like Dave Canales going to the Panthers a lot, right? I think like you look at Dave Canales with the Bucks last year, work he did with Baker Mayfield, great. You look at him the year before, the work he did with Geno Smith and the Seahawks, great. So I think that's definitely fair, but that's probably the biggest loss. Like if we're talking about the Bucks on paper that the Bucks had this offseason is Dave Canales, right? Um, but yeah, I'm just not like overly concerned about the Bucks. And once again, I think that division's very open. So um I also am a Baker believer. I've always been a Baker believer. So I think I have some of the adrenaline from last year like still boiling over. Um Baker's QB 10 in fantasy last year. So I don't know. I've always been I mean, sometimes you just like a player, and that's probably all it is with me and Bake. So I don't know. But I do think that hiring for the Panthers is huge. Ooh, I have no idea who I'm about to draft here. I'll go Kyler. I guess let's go tight end. Like running back, wide receivers, like kind of disgusting right now. There's some names at wide receiver. There always is, but let's go Cole Kmet. We've got a couple double tight end teams. Z Fighter goes Kincaid and Ingram through the first 7 rounds. Michael goes Goddard and Schultz through the first 10 rounds. Affected ADP just a tad, but then we got Laporta and Bowers. We lost Robert, but oh well, I'll take Komet. I still like Komet this year. Tight end 8 last year, tight end 7 the year before. Biggest issue with Komet is like the chemistry between Komet and Justin Fields was like huge, which definitely impacted his fantasy stats the last 2 years. And then, like, what are we going to get between Caleb and Cole Kmet? We don't really know. Plus, Gerald Everett is on this roster. Um, and like, I guess if you care, Mercedes Lewis is there, but Everett's the big thing because Everett's still a good tight end. Um, he has missed some time here and there the last 2 years, but Everett is a good pass catching tight end. But I still think Kmet's the guy here for sure, as long as he's healthy. But then, like, the next problem is you got DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, and Roma Dunze here. And then you got DeAndre Swift and running back. Like, you got plenty of mouths to feed in this offense. So we'll see. But I don't know. I still feel good about Komet where he's being drafted. I think Pat Fryermuth, who's kind of next in terms of ADP, could have a revamped year. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, Fryermuth missed a lot of time last year. You get a new offensive coordinator who does like the tight end position, even if it is Arthur Smith. And Fryermuth, a player that I really liked going in his rookie year, really liked going in 2022, and admittedly really liked last year at his given ADP. So we'll see. He's still at a good enough ADP that I'll draft some Pat Fryermuth. Then the next guy off the board typically is Luke Musgrave, who I do like. and that's kind of my sleeper tight end. Then you got Cade Otton, and then you got Ben Sinnott. If I'm going to draft a rookie tight end, it might be Ben Sinnott. We'll see. All right, let me take a look. Dang, this draft went by like, I mean, I don't know. We're 30 minutes in. This draft felt super fast, though. Here's the thing at the 1.1, I always feel like I come out of my draft with just 4 running backs. And I'm just like, I'm relying on C-Mac, and I'll play the waiver wire. And Henry as an RB2 doesn't make me too upset. But it's like, I'll just play the waiver wire for the rest of the year. All right. Okay, I think I got... Man, I don't know. Do you guys think I should make some of these mock drafts longer? I don't know. I feel like we have 2 flexes, 5 bench spots. We're probably good. I'm so used to underdog drafts now that I'm like, there's so many players I still want to draft. I do want to run a puppy after. We'll see. Bowers, Ferguson, and Joku Patty F, the best values. Still don't feel great about Bowers. It's not Bowers. It's the offense. It's a QB sitch. That scares me. I guess the reports right now that Aiden O'Connell is going to be the guy. Another draft tomorrow, probably. This or an underdog draft for sure. Maybe Brandon Cooks. And I will go Pat Freiermuth. I got Demarcus Robinson and Luke Musgrave also queued up. Could go with another quarterback with Kyler's injury history here. Caleb Williams, Jaden Daniels, Herbert, Kirk Cousins, A-Rod, Stafford. Go with whoever you like. If I went running back there, I just probably wouldn't. Like I said, you're just going for a pure handcuff, like maybe Eli Mitchell, since I have CMC. I like Dameon Pierce in terms of a handcuff at this point in the draft. That's about it. Wide receiver, like I said, I also like DeMarcus Robinson. I like Jerry Jeudy just fine here. Maybe take a shot at Gabe Davis, Roman Wilson, Jermaine Burton. Randall Robinson, I think, is okay. We'll see. But yeah, they're my other picks. Personally, I'm staying far away from the Browns offense. Watson, Chubb coming off injury, Cooper being carried by a couple spike weeks, and Njoku as well. Just not excited about this offense. Yeah, I mean, I think if there's an offense you're not like, you don't feel good about personally, stay away from. I think the Browns are really hard to like evaluate based on last year because you had so much time where Watson wasn't the starter and now he's going to be the assumed starter. And like a lot of those big Njoku games, Joe Flacco was the quarterback. He was okay before that, but those big games were were obviously when Joe Flacco was at quarterback. So yeah, it's just tough. And then Cooper, I think that's fair to say. I still like Cooper at his ADP. He was still top 20 last year, and he didn't play the last 2 games of the season. But obviously the 51.5-point game comes in big there. But once again, it's just hard to read because the quarterback play was so up and down. So I still like Cooper at his ADP. And Chubb, like, I'm not worried about Chubb because I think Jerome Ford is going to be fine. Jerome Ford probably doesn't equate a fully healthy Nick Chubb, but Jerome Ford is a good running back. I think they'll be fine in terms of their run game, but it's just really hard because it's hard to evaluate this team with everything that happened at quarterback. So I'm not necessarily staying away from them, but it's just kind of a tough read. We definitely have to get those guys at the right value for me. Mike, what's good, bro? All right, team reviews. Let's do it. Purdy, Say no more. He's pretty good. I just want everyone to know, if you're new to the channel, that I was like ridiculously high on Brock Purdy going in last year. So Goddard and Schultz, you're fine there. A-Chain, Mixon, Brian Robinson, Chandler. I like Ty Chandler as RB4. Maybe prefer him as an RB5, but Chase, Metcalf, Kirk, Rice, Deontay, Mike Williams. Nice. Good wide receiver room. So we're starting Purdy, one of the two tight ends, A-Chain, Mixon, Chase, Metcalf, Kirk, Deontay Johnson, then Rice when he comes back and fill in. You got tight end 2. Brian Robinson's a great RB3, I think. Good team. Nothing more to say here, Mike. You killed it. All right, Chase. What's up, Swole Chase? Caleb Williams and no one else. Someone's going to do this year in your home league. You know it. I just think if I draft Caleb or Jaden Daniels, I'm still drafting a QB2, whether it's Trevor Lawrence, or I guess Trevor Lawrence went right before, but like to Trevor Lawrence, Kirk Cousins, Matthew Stafford, one of those guys. Herbert didn't even get drafted tonight, But once again, like those guys are gonna be out there on the waiver wire. So Njoku, fine. I like Fergie a hair over Njoku, but I'm pretty high on Ferguson this year. Stevenson, White, Pollard, Charbs, Marshawn Lloyd. For not going RB till the 5th, I'll take it. You know where your upside is. Your upside's at wide receiver here. It's not at running back. But I like Stevenson in the 5th. I like White in the 6th, and I'm okay with Pollard in the 7th. Charbs and Lloyd are like just good handcuffs too. Hill, Collins, Debo, Pickens. I like that. Curtis Samuel, fine. Datavon Wicks, I thought was a great value in the 12th. I would have taken him in the 12th if he was there. So you're starting Caleb. And I'm not against Caleb. I'm just saying, like, rookie quarterbacks always make me a little shaky. You're starting Njoku, Stevenson and White, Hill, Collins, Debo, Pickens. Good starting lineup. You have some good options on the bench. You could definitely go into the season with this team. Biggest question is Caleb Williams. Cats. What's up, dude? We got T-Law. I like that. You got Fergie. I like that. Pacheco and Connor. I can live with that. Then you got Warren, Chuba, and the Doodle. Yeah, and I think Connor was a auto draft by accident. Lamb, Waddle, Dell, Godwin, JMO, Polk. Nice. Do you actually like Jalen Polk? I don't dislike him. I don't know about that offense right now. I like Cooks more. Like I would probably draft like DeMarcus Rob. I don't know. It's the thing. It's like when we're in the 12th round plus looking at wide receiver, it's like we're comparing a lot of apples to oranges. You got to go with your gut. So you're starting Telon, Ferguson, Pacheco, and Connor, Lamb, Waddle, Dell, Godwin. I think the starting lineup's fine. Warren, JMO, Chuba, Doodle, Polk on the bench. Yeah, waivers, trades, you can make it through. It's not my favorite bench, but I do like JMO and Warren. I guess I like Warren. I don't know. How do you guys feel about Pittsburgh's running back situation this year? Boss man at the 1-6. Tua and Jaden Daniels. I like that. I like that combo a lot, actually. Hawkinson, the problem here is if you draft T-Hawk, you still have to draft a second tight end. There's like Hawkinson could miss a lot of time this year. And like it says here on Sleeper, we have no timetables. We don't really know. Is he going to miss 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, 8 games? We really don't know right now. All right, ETN, White, Chuba, Spears. That's fine. Or not Chuba, Chubb. I'm sorry. I think Chubb was an auto pick for you. Am I wrong? Eaton and White can carry you. I like both those guys a lot. You guys know I don't feel great about Chubb. I'd rather just wait and draft forward. And I don't know. Spears is okay. It's a weird split there. We don't really know what's going to be. So, it doesn't kill you. St. Brown, Neighbors, Higgins, Reed, Coleman, Lockett. Yeah, this is an interesting squad. Because let's see. You're starting Tua and a waiver tight end, unless you get really lucky, I guess, and Hawk is ready to go week 1. Then Etienne and White, St. Brown, Neighbors, flexing Higgins, flexing Reed. So, like, As long as you fix Hawk, you have a really good starting lineup, I think. And you have Chubb and Spear still have value on your bench for sure. Coleman and Lockett are good values where you got them too. Actually, I like this team. I just think Hawkinson is, a question mark. But I don't know. Some good drafting tonight so far, ladies and gentlemen. Tucci was good, man. Allen and Kelsey. So obviously you're good, but you go quarterback in the third, tight end in the fourth. How does it affect the rest of your draft? We got Bijan, Trey Benson, Gus the Bus, Brown, and Vidal. Yeah, so you win. True hero running back. I like Benson in the 8th. I like Gus in the 9th. I like Chase in the 10th. I don't even dislike Vidal in the 13th. By the way, we got rookie pictures, everybody, for all players. We'll come back to that. MH Jr., Keenan Allen, Hollywood, Ridley, Xavier Leggett, rookie Pearsall. This is an interesting squad. Let's see. You're starting Allen and Kelsey, Bijan, and I'll say Gus the Bus. And I do think Benson and Chase Brown have a lot of value down the road, and Vidal could. Plus, you have Edwards. So, yeah, that makes sense. Then you're starting MH Jr., Keenan Allen, you're flexing Hollywood, and then you're flexing Calvin Ridley. So I guess the main question for this team is, what is your belief in Calvin Ridley next year? Xavier Leggett, Ricky Pearsall, fine, I guess. I like Pearsall more. I'd rather get Josh Downs or Demario Douglas, even Jahan Dotson over Leggett here, because I feel like your team needs some potential stability. But I don't know. I guess if you believe Leggett could be that guy, that's fair. I don't know. I'm okay with this team. It's interesting. Andrea, what's up? How are you? Stroud in the 8th. It was a light QB draft tonight. So ADP is off, but the order of quarterbacks not off. Kyle Pitts in the 6th. Walker, Jones, Blake Corum, Kendra Miller, Gibson. Okay. AJ Brown, Drake London, DJ Moore, Lad McConkey, Jacoby Myers, Troy Franklin. I think he actually got some pretty good value throughout this draft. So we're starting Stroud and Pitts, Walker and Jones, AJ Brown, Drake London, DJ Moore, and I think you're flexing Lad McConkey with this team. I think your first 8 picks are super solid. I still like Blake Corum a lot. I just really prefer if I can get Blake Corum as an RB4. But Myers a good value there. Kendra Miller, Gibson is pure handcuffs. Troy Franklin in the 13th is okay, I'm not going to knock, like I said earlier, these wide receivers in the 13th, whatever. Take whoever you think can have the best season. But so yeah, you're starting Stroud and Pitts, Walker, Jones, Brown, London, Moore, and Ladd. So I really like that. I think a bench is fine. If we're going into these redraft leagues, your bench is what your bench is. So yeah, I think that's another good team. Good drafting tonight. Dom, I'm not worried about the Browns. Donta Foreman will step up. Yeah, I've talked about Donta Foreman a lot too. And he's not stepping up. Jerome Ford is going to be the guy. And then Donta Foreman, I think, is a good RB2, though. But Ford is the guy. All right, Bryce, what's good, man? Love how quarterbacks fall in these drafts. Yeah, the Catch fam, we like our wide receivers and running backs, don't we? What do you think of my squad at the 112? Let's take a look. Yeah, Dak in the 9th. Beautiful. Kincaid and Ingram is filthy. This is one of those teams that you can end up flexing a tight end. Barkley and Cook, I like that a lot. Zeke and McLaughlin. It's kind of like those guys are fine. I actually think Zeke is a decent value where he's going, especially if he's your RB4. There's reports that McLaughlin is taking more snaps than Javonte. I don't know what to believe with the Broncos offense, so he could be a really good value. There's not really anyone there that I'm be like, oh no, you have to draft Antonio Gibson over McLaughlin, or you have to draft Algier or Ty Chandler. It's all these guys are what they are. You're relying on Barkley and Cook. those are your guys, right? Garrett Wilson, Pittman, Addison, Jason, Demario Douglas, Quentin Johnston. Okay. This is an interesting team. I mean, you're starting Dak, Kincaid, Barkley and Cook, Garrett Wilson, Pittman. Then you could flex Addison and JSN, or you could flex Ingram over one of them. Zeke might find the flex spot, and Douglas can find the flex spot, I think. And then McLaughlin, Johnston are like, we'll find out. And maybe they become guys who hit the waiver, maybe they don't. So yeah, this is a fine team. I think the second flex. I mean, it kind of depends too. Like, what do you think of Addison this year, and what do you think of JSN this year? Some people are really high on those guys. Some people aren't. I like Addison where he's going, and I like JSN where he's going. So I'm okay with it. But Barkley and Cook is the highlight of this team. I think Wilson and Pittman really good values. If I spend a fifth rounder on a tight end, I'm probably not spending a seventh rounder on a tight end too. Like I prefer even getting like Trey Benson or Brian Robinson there. I'd take Christian Watson or Jameson Williams there against ADP. But I'm not, there's always a team that drafts two tight ends like that. So it is. Cats, he's the cheapest wide receiver in the whole draft. Oh, Polk. See, I just don't know, man. I prefer Douglas out of that offense. You got Douglas, Polk, Osborne, Javon Baker, Kendrick Bourne. I think Juju might get cut. It just depends on how you view the offense. If that's how you view it, that's fine. Take a ton of Pittsburgh running backs, just crazy volume. Steelers always find a way to at least be a decent football team, be leading down the stretch. This is fair. Things I messed up. Didn't even know Hawk was dealing with injury. I thought people were fading because of McCarthy. Oh, no. No. I mean, I think that plays into it as well. But yeah, Hawkinson hurt his knee super late. I mean, was it literally week 18? It was, oh no, I'm sorry. It was week 16. Yeah, against the Lions. That's right. And what he tore like everything. I don't remember what the exact injury is, but it was not good. So yeah, I mean, you look at week 16, that's pretty late into the season. Yeah, I liked Mike's team a lot tonight. I mean, Mike always has a good team. RB room is shaky. Yeah, but here's the thing. Like sometimes we have to remember, like, think back to just last year alone, right? The team that you drafted versus the team that you started in week 15 is so different. It's like so many guys that come off the waivers and potentially even trades are like really what shapes your team at the end of the year. So if you have Barkley and Cook, like sometimes in a redraft league, like, you're okay. Foreman's probably gonna take a lot of points away from Ford since they don't trust him in the red zone. You don't think? Ford had I guess he had 9 touchdowns, but 5 of them were receiving touchdowns. That might be true. Problem is Douglas can't play outside, won't be on the field for all snaps. Polk is a do-it-all. It's just fair. I kind of like the upside of Demario Douglas, so to speak, though. This is fair. Let's roast my team. Kyler in the 10th, Komet and Freiermuth at tight end. I'd be okay with that. We got C-Mac, Derrick Henry, Mostert, Javante. I'm okay with that. I mean, we are purely relying on the upside of C-Mac here, but I like Henry a lot, and I'm not going to do a whole spiel about it because you guys have heard it 100 times. Okay, kind of weird wide receivers that came to us tonight. We had a very veteran-esque team outside of Flowers and Worthy. And Watson's not even that old, but he's hurt, so he like falls into that tier. But Adams, Cup, Flowers, Worthy, Watson, Cooks. I like this because there's a good kind of blend here of like upside guys who might be hurt in Watson, rookie, second year guy, 2 veterans, good quarterbacks, bad quarterbacks. Well, maybe not bad quarterbacks, but Devontae Adams has a situation. Everyone else has fine quarterbacks, but yeah, this is an interesting. I definitely have not had a wide receiver room look like this so far in the offseason. So I'll be starting Kyler and Komet. We could start Fryermuth too. C-Mac and Henry, Adams, Cup, Flowers, Worthy. Watson and Cooks on the bench could also fill in. Mostert and Javonte could be potential flex options. So yeah, I'll take this team. But like I said, whenever I draft from the 1.1, it's just like, uh, well, I don't know. Something just always feels off drafting from the 1.1 to 1.2. So we'll see. Taylor, good to see you in the chat. Douglas was still averaging almost 80% of snaps last year. Prefer Polk though. Yeah. Wide receiver core is absolutely brutal. That's fair. Clearly didn't work hitting Pop with 2-yard outs every play. So DeMario goes at the 11.12. Polk goes at the 12.11. I mean, who really knows? It could be like Daquan Thornton could come out of nowhere again, or like who really knows what this offense is going to be this year. But I think it's a fair argument to say that Polk is worth a selection over Douglas going almost an entire round later. I think that's definitely fair. I don't even know if Juju's going to be on this team. And some people like Hunter Henry. I mean, not you're right. Thornton is not real. But yeah, I don't know, man. I'm not like overly investing in the Patriots. I think with Demario Douglas, it's like I like where he's going in best ball, and now I've correlated him to sleeper redraft teams too. Andrew, hard for me to draft in spot one. I mean, I think it is every year. I think just that the turn there is tough, but honestly, like Adams, I don't hate there. Henry, I don't hate where he got. I don't really dislike this draft that I had tonight, so we'll see. All right. Let's see. There's your team reviews. And Katz asked for it, so mock draft is over. And let's enter an Underdog lobby, baby. All right, if you guys do want to join Underdog draft with me, go ahead and enter the 30-second lobby. 7 spots, 6 spots, 5 spots. Let's run a puppy. $5 entry. Promo code the catch. Link is down below. We'll get you a 50% deposit match up to $250 if you guys are new to Underdog Fantasy. Let's do it. All right, we at least got cats in here. The 1-3, I keep getting these super early selections on Underdog too. Oh well. So what? I'm probably going Hill or Lamb. Lamb probably won't be there. Sometimes you see Hill go to the 1.2. So I'm probably going with Tyreek tonight. You just never know. Okay. Bummed I missed the mock. I've been drafting puppies on Underdog since this morning. Yeah, it's hard not to, right? The $5 entry gets you. Citizen, am I the only one who notices the RB position is awful this year? I don't think it's that bad. And like people said that last year. Like people say it every year, right? But it's just about identifying like guys at their given ADP. Like, I mean, I think there's still a lot of really good value. I think Saquon's gonna have a big year. I think Derrick Henry's gonna have a big year. I still like that range of like Etienne, Pacheco, Cook, Rashad White, even Mixon and Walker, Montgomery, like a little bit later on, like Ramondre Stevenson, DeAndre Swift. Like I think there's plenty of names. I think running back's going to be fine. Then like you're going to have guys who kind of surprise, right? in later rounds too, like Samir White, maybe. I think Raheem Mostert is being kind of undervalued. You got guys like Trey Benson who could take over that backfield. I think Brian Robinson's gonna have a good year. Blake Corum could have some really big games if Kyron misses time. Gus the Bus. I think Chase Brown could have a big year. Like maybe it's Zach Moss, maybe it's Chase Brown. Jerome Ford. Like there's gonna be guys, you know. I think also like with the big shift to full PPR in the past couple years, like yeah, it used to be just like running back in fantasy used to be like just so much more valuable, I guess. But now it's like without the pass catching element, you just have like the tier breaks a little bit stronger. So I feel like wide receivers just so drastically taken over in value that maybe that affects things and people like kind of look at it that way. But I think running backs will be fine. I do. But yeah, I think also like the past year or so, like we've had like 3 running backs go in the top 5, right? If I'm remembering correctly, because last year you had C-Mac, Eckler, JT. JT still going, right? And potentially Bijan. Am I missing anyone? And the year before, I want to say, see, I know. No, last year Eckler was a little bit later. It was a year before that it was Eckler, C-Mac, JT. Then last year was C-Mac, Bijan, and I feel like there is still one more. But yeah, point being, we just haven't. We don't have like we have one running back in the top 6 this year, so maybe that has something to do with it too. All right, pick 22. Eckler was top 5 because there was that point last off season. Remember when Eckler was like holding out for the new contract and he fell back a bit, and I don't think he ever moved back up to top 5. Dude, I'm about to see if I can pull up a draft from last year. I don't know if I can. I bet you I could just search like. By the way, I'm ecstatic. I got Saquon Barkley right there. NFL running back rankings 2023. Fantasy, you have to specify. Hold on, let me make this pick. Just give me Devonta Smith. That's kind of a weird spot right there. We miss you, Taylor. Wish you could have got in, bro. C-Mac, Bijan, Eckler, Chubb, Barkley. Was Chubb going that early? Dang, all I can find is like. Wait, here's August 1st. C-Mac, Barkley. Yeah, people were backing on Barkley. C-Mac, Barkley, Eckler, Chubb, Henry, Bijan. I don't know. This is an official list. JT, Ramondre, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Mixon, Gibbs, Etienne, Najee, Sanders. What? Oh, God. I'm out. Damian Pierce was next on that list. Okay. I mean, I guess you're right about Chubb, though. Yeah, here's another one. Different site. C-Mac, Eckler, Bijan, Chubb, Pollard, Barkley, Henry, Jacobs, Gibbs, Stevenson. That's a top 10. Yeah, people are so low on Brees Hall because of the injury and everything. And I remember pounding the table for Brees Hall. Damian Pierce at 15. Miles Sanders at 20. Dang. Where was I want to see where Rashad White was on this list. Where were my guys? Okay. Pacheco at 28, Rashad White at 26. Those are really the two guys I was wondering about. And Swift at 29. That's the other guy. Those are like my three most drafted running backs last year. All right. So there's our answer. Dom is basically correct here. That's a fair evaluation. I'm going to go back to 2022. This is going to be harder to find. I don't know if I can find everything's coming up as 2023 or 2024. It's like the search engine is like broke. It doesn't understand why I'd want to look this up. So, Cats, that was from August. It was Adam Rank's list. Yeah, Pollard was another guy that was like, dude. Well, and that was just like a top 10. That wasn't like actual draft spots. So I don't know. Point being is that we have less running backs going in the first round in general this year, and definitely less in the top 5 was the point I was trying to make. But that was fun. Okay. Who am I drafting? I guess I need a running back. Just started Gibbs, Barkley, Henry from the 112. I like that a lot. I mean, I don't know if I very often go triple running back to start, but I do. I like that start a lot. All right, 2022. JT Eckler, CMC, Henry Cook, Mixon, Najee, Swift, Kamara, Chubb, Barkley, Jones. I like this. Good reminder. So this was the season that I was telling you guys to draft Austin Eckler at the 1.1. I got a lot of hate for that. And I also said, like, if you want to go C-Mac there, whatever, but I like Eckler more. And Eckler was the one, the RB1, CMC was the RB2, and JT got hurt that year. A lot of people were taking JT. And then as the offseason went on, it kind of shifted to CMC versus JT. But that was JT coming off of his monster season. So Dalvin Cook, whew, yeah. I wonder who finished as because this was kind of Barkley's like comeback season, for lack of a better term. Or what did we say that was last year? No, because Barkley was the RB5. Yeah, he went from the RB30 being he was hurt in 2020, only played 2 games, was RB114. Then in 2021 played 13 games, was a RB30. So this was the year where people were lower on him. And then he finished as the RB5, and he was RB13 last year. I'm going to draft Hollywood Brown if he's here. And if not, I'll go Hollywood Brown. Let's say I'll go Dalton Kincaid or James Cook. Most people are taking JT, CMC, and Henry over Eckler, but I took him at the 1-2. That was like, I remember being really proud about that, like getting that right. And it wasn't even that big of a deal. So let's see. Christian McCaffrey in 2022 had 356.36 fantasy points. Okay. And then Eckler, who I just scroll much further down to find, had 372.7. So it's like a difference of like 20 fantasy points. But still, I was like, I told you guys. And I just, for whatever reason, didn't end up with any like shares of Jonathan Taylor that year. But he finished as the RB33 playing in 11 games. And last year, RB33 playing in 10 games. After being the RB6 in his rookie season and the RB1 2021. How do we feel about JT this year? I think JT will be fine, but the biggest thing with JT is injury, as we just alluded to. Now, here's an interesting one. Top 5 tight ends last 2 seasons. Because I feel like where they got drafted can't be that different. So last year had to be well, wait, we weren't were we looking at last year? Yeah. So you have Kelsey, Laporta. So Laporta, Kelsey. Kittle was a tight end 3. I'm trying to do this one off the top of my head. I want to check Kittle. No, Kittle's a tight end 5. Okay, now I really don't know. It was Ingram in the top 5? Because I know Andrews finished outside of it. And I feel like McBride and Kincaid don't make it in. Where did Njoku? Njoku was tight end 6. Who am I missing? Laporta, Kelsey, Kittle. All right, I'm looking it up. Laporta, Kittle, Kelsey, Hawkinson, and Njoku. Okay, because the way Sleeper displays this is like different. But I'm just gonna go off Fantasy Pros. Laporta, Kittle, Kelsey, Hawkinson. Oh wait, this is standard. Ingram was tight end 2. Laporta, Ingram, Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle. I was missing Hawkinson though from that tier. That might be slightly because that's different than what Sleeper says. Hold on, I'm gonna check. This is so much easier though, even if it's a little bit different to check than how I was doing it. The year before was Kelsey, Hawkinson, Kittle, Andrews, Ingram. Higbee was tight end 6. Freiermuth was tight end 7. Quarterbacks. See, this is always crazy to look at. All right, let me make these next 2 draft picks. Who's on this team? Barkley, ETN, Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, Hollywood Brown. So I'm probably going wide receiver, running back here. No. Give me Evan. Give me Evan Ingram. Let's go tight end early. I don't know if we're going to do this. There's some running backs I like here, and there's some wide receivers. All right, so QBs last year, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Dak Prescott, Lamar Jackson, J-Lo. Year before, Patty Mahomes, Josh Allen, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, Geno Smith, Justin Fields, Kirk Cousins, Trevor Lawrence, Danny Dimes, Jared Goff. So I definitely feel like there's some surprises. And like that's the thing with quarterback is like we kind of talked about this earlier when we were doing the sleeper mock is like there's just always guys that creep in at quarterback that we're not expecting. So picks 94, 99, 118. 74. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out my draft. All right, I'm gonna go Monty. Yeah, biggest thing for JT is definitely being healthy. Looking at quarterback ADP every year just reminds me to take an elite guy or wait till the very end. Yeah. And I'm a wait till the very end guy. But yeah, I mean, so let's look outside the top 5. Last year you had Purdy, Goff, Mahomes, Tua, and Baker. So Baker, Goff, Purdy, and then Love at 5. No one was expecting that. And then number 11 is CJ Stroud. Once again, no one expecting that. Like, if we're just looking at top 12, the quarterback with the 12th most fantasy points last year was Sam Howell. Okay. Sam Howell finished in front of Trevor Lawrence, Russell Wilson, Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Justin Herbert, Justin Fields, Geno Smith, Bryce Young, Kirk Cousins, Joe Burrow, Kyler Murray. Now, obviously, injuries have impacted a handful of those guys, but the year before, outside of the top, well, let's just see here. I mean, the year before, you had Geno Smith at 5. Like, that was enough, right? Danny Dimes at 9, Goff at 10. That was a year people really like the Lions were not, they were just showing flashes of what they were going to be this past year. Other than that, this list basically makes sense, except Marcus Mariota at 20. Dang, Andy Dalton at 22. It's just so weird to think that like Andy Dalton was like in recent history a thing. Whew. Oh well, that's always fun to look at. Massage Boy is my most drafted quarterback right now on Underdog. I hate myself for it. Been trying to take Mahomes every draft now. I mean, sometimes when you get used to taking like a later guy, if it's Watson for you, especially a quarterback and tight end, you can just get used to taking those same guys like over and over. And I'm definitely guilty of that. Definitely guilty of that. So I understand it. Especially if you get used to drafting like late round wide receivers or tight ends that correlate with that same quarterback. Oh, I don't know what I'm doing with this next pick. We're about to hit a pretty drastic tier shift at like running back and wide receiver. I was really hoping Swift would fall, but I was not. I was hoping JMO would fall too. So I sniped you on Monty, you sniped me on JMO, but JMO kind of hanging around. Like if I got him, that wouldn't have really been ADP-esque, so to speak. Yeah, this is the point in the draft in terms of ADP. I kind of shut it off. Like I'm kind of going for guys I like the best. Give me Raheem Mostert here. Take him as my RB4. We got Saquon, Etienne, Monty, Mostert, Hill, Smith, Hollywood, Ingram. So this is going to be interesting to see how this team shapes out at wide receiver. Probably going to go wide receiver at pick 99. All right. So J-Lo and Prescott off the board to start the ninth. I don't mind Lockett here. There's some good running backs, but I like Romeo Dobbs a lot right here. Lockett versus Dobbs is probably fine. But I like the Packers offense. I'll go Dobbs. Okay, I think I got a plan here. This is the point in the draft where you have to make an actual like plan. All right, Cats, what are you doing? Amon-Ra, Waddle, Flowers, Higgins. I feel like I haven't drafted enough teams this year where I'm drafting 4 wide receivers in a row because that's always been my thing at Underdog. Kincaid, Walker, Jason, Jamo. Okay. I like it. Heavy at wide receiver tonight for sure. But that's what are you going to do at running back? I like Javonte as an RB2. I want to draft more 0 running back teams. I ended up not streaming last night, but if I did stream, I was just going to draft like 2 0 running back teams. And I'm talking like heavy. Like I was going to go hero running back, but like not take my first running back till like the 6th round, 7th round, 8th round. So I guess basically 0 running back. But I'll say that for another night. All right, so we got an interesting round so far. J-Lo, Prescott, Dobbs, Bowers, Singletary, Javonte, Caleb Williams, and Joku Lockett. We'll see what happens. So I have picks 118, 123, 142. I think I put myself in a bad spot at wide receiver. But Hill, Smith, Hollywood should be able to carry us. In theory. Been smashing wide receivers early, then filling up at other positions rounds 5 through 12 once it drops off at wide receiver. But I needed JSN and JMO correlation. Yeah, that's like the biggest, like with best ball drafts, it's like it's just so hard to get away from like offenses that you want correlation with, offenses that you're trying to stack with. And it's sometimes I feel like it's good to have some drafts where you just get away from that completely and just draft like a good team, like the best possible team that you think you can draft and not think about stacking, not think about matchups, not think about correlation, because we could be wrong about all those things and how they eventually turn out. But at the same time, the strategy is there for a reason, right? Do I want Tua? I would prefer Tua over Jaden Daniels and Brock Purdy. But I can survive without him, I guess. There goes Caleb Williams, or Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams to the same team. That's kind of interesting. Going with both those rookies there. I'm trying to see. We got DJ Moore, but no Washington wide receiver. And I think Dotson's still available. So yeah, I'm going to be boring with these next 2 picks and hopefully get both my quarterbacks. So I was actually going to draft Trevor Lawrence first. And let's see. I think I can make it through. Oh. Dude, I get sniped so aggressively in these drafts. Not even funny. It's like only when I say a player's name do they. And I really wanted T-Law on this team because I had Ingram and ETN, so I was trying to build a little, But Tua and Hill is fine. But I wanted this whole draft. I was planning on taking T-Law than Tua at these next two picks. So that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Um, so now I'm in one of those spots where like everyone looks good. Dang, I like Tavion Wicks there. Purdy is looking pretty nice right here, but I think we can get a pretty good quarterback at pick 142 or 147. All right. We're done at running back. No, I didn't take off. You're good, bro. Strategy is to take the best players I can early, then worry about correlation in the later rounds. I like doing that too. But I've gotten so used to like, okay, if I draft this wide receiver in the first, if I draft Hill in the first, then I want to target Tua. If I draft Lamb in the first, I want to target Dak. So on and so forth. Katz goes Amon Ra here. He gets Goff. So I've gotten really used to that line of thinking too. But also, I think if you can start to take like the Packers are a good example, right? Because you can get Jordan Love in the ninth, and then Dobbs goes after him, right? And Tavon Wicks goes after him. Luke Musgrave goes after him. And you can also still get like if you like Watson or Jaden Reed where they're going, then like whether they're guys you have to correlate or not, then like you can still get them a pretty good value too. So if you can start to build those late round stacks, correlation, it can help a lot too. Yeah, I like Dotson here, Andrea. It was really close with Dotson or Jerome Ford. I'm going to be hunting at wide receiver in these later rounds. Yeah, no Goff for me. Goff wasn't even in the plans. If I went quarterback there, it would have been Purdy. I agree about wanting the stack players, but I try not to massively reach for the stack. There's a better player for sure. For sure. And that's the thing too, is it's like, like the ADP made sense for me to get Tua tonight. I think his ADP is a 124. So I don't think there's anyone here like Chase Brown, Khalil Shakir, Dontavon Wicks, Ezekiel Elliott that like we massively lost value on by going to at 118 over 123. Some might argue Dontavon Wicks, so I think it's okay. But I also thought I'd be getting Trevor Lawrence here, which was kind of my mid-tier stack, so to speak. Even though I just wasn't really in a place to draft Christian Kirk, but having Ingram and ETN on this team, I like the correlation. I don't know. I like having some drafts where I'm okay with reaching. I'm okay with aggressively building those stacks, and then having some drafts where I don't care at all. I'm just drafting best team possible, and then having maybe a balance. One of two players stacked to your quarterback has been the most efficient way to stack all four best ball mania, according to research. Also, having A-Chain was the most efficient way to make the championship. Was it? I don't think so. Because I think like Amari Cooper, George Pickens. I mean, are we talking about full season stats? Or like specific weeks like week 15, 16? I mean, A-Chain had 23 points in week Well, week 16, he only had 4.1 points. He just had that one game where he had 51 points, but Amari Cooper, George Pickens, Brees Hall, those are the players that I remember last year. Like, you're kind of screwed because Brees Hall had 43 points in week 16, which is ridiculous. Pickens had 35. I mean, I think the argument remains the same here, right? And Cooper had 51. Those were all week 16. So I think the argument is more of that having the specific player is more important than potentially stacking. It's just so hard to say. And this is another weird spot. I'm going to draft Dalton Schultz. We are light at wide receiver officially, and I kind of have to go quarterback with this next. Oh gosh. This is a pure late round upside wide receiver build. We're going to be going in here in a minute. And I don't think it's going to be nice at all. So I'm going to draft Kirk Cousins here, and then I'm only drafting wide receivers. It's going to be really ugly. Give me Captain Kirk. Saw a stat that like 50% championship rosters had A-Chain. Okay, well, like that I believe. That's fair. I'm not sure what the contest was. I know weekly winners. Having Dolphins players and weekly winners was obviously huge, but that's completely different, like, method of thinking here. And the week that the Dolphins played the Broncos, like every weekly winners team was like all Dolphins players, which is like really goes to show if you do draft in the weekly winners tournament, like you should, I think you should be drafting like specific teams and going from there. Because if like even like the first time Washington and Philly played last year, like that game was huge for props, for not, I mean, like props in terms of sports betting, but then in terms of like underdog tournaments and weekly winners, like, and fantasy in general, like, was obviously huge as well. So we'll see. I'm worried about this team on draft. I'm not worried about it, but I actually think Dalton Schultz was a great value at 12.10. But I no longer know what my plan is. We're just going in at wide receiver for the rest of this draft, I guess. This is one of those teams where I have to draft like additional wide receivers, like just in case. And we'll see what happens. Because I mean, all right, we got Tua and Kirk, Saquon, Etienne, Monty, Mostert, Ford, Hill, Smith, Hollywood, Dove. We are light at wide receiver. Ingram, Schultz. We look really good everywhere except we have no wide receiver depth. But we have 4 wide receivers that I'm happy with. Fortunately, so far, I'm about to jinx myself, I'm sure, but since I last drafted, it's been pretty light at wide receiver. We see a lot of running backs, Aaron Rodgers, tight ends going. Why is Chuba Hubbard going so late? Easiest 14th round click, in my opinion. I do like Chuba where he's going, but I think that offense, running back position is still kind of. I think enough people believe Jonathan Brooks is going to take over the RB1 spot sooner rather than later, that he's being drafted as the Panthers RB1. When I think that the season could very likely start with Chuba Hubbard as the RB1. But Jonathan Brooks is going to take it over. I think that's fair to believe. And some people still think Miles Sanders or Rashad Penny could be a factor here. I'm not worried about either of those guys, but yeah, I like Chuba. I've talked about Chuba. But then the question becomes like, how sustainable is he with Jonathan Brooks there? So it kind of depends. Like, are you high on Brooks or not? Most people probably high on Brooks. But yeah, I mean, when you look at how he finished last year, I mean, he was doing fine. He was doing fine. Um, I want to. I'm not going to say who I'm going to draft because then I'll get sniped. But I'm planning on drafting someone against ADP and then seeing who falls to 171 as opposed to the player I like potentially. Yeah, I'm just going to draft Demarcus Robinson. I don't care. And then I'll go Demario Douglas is probably who I prefer. I guess Bateman is the guy I like the next most. I like Brooks a ton, but there's no reason to rush him back considering Panthers have no reason to rush to compete. That's fair. But I think that both will be utilized. And I think most people's method of thinking is just Brooks is going to have more talent and overtake Chuba. But yeah, I'd like Chuba in the 14th round. I've drafted a fair amount of him. So, I mean, if we like a player who's going late, then theoretically, we should want that player to keep going late. You know what I mean? All right, so I got picks 190, 195. I'm just drafting pure upside at wide receiver. Like I might draft Rashad Bateman. I'm going to draft Douglas. Who has more upside, Demario Douglas or Rashad Bateman? Because right now this team needs upside at wide receiver and nothing else. I like that pick, Robinson. Yeah, I'm in this tier wide receiver. Demarcus Robinson's my guy for sure. He's my favorite sleeper wide receiver easily. Probably Douglas. I agree. It's like the offense much better for the Ravens for sure. But when you look at Bateman's last 2 years, 367 receiving yards, 1 touchdown last year, 285 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, 2022. It's just such a strong reminder of his inability to stay on the field that it's worrisome. So I'd at least rather have a player who can stay healthy, I guess. But I've drafted some Bateman in this range, depending on the team. Man, I gotta get ready to make some ugly picks. I might draft Chase Claypool in this draft. Meh. I guess I could draft a third tight end over wide receiver, third wide receiver. I don't know. This team's not bad though. Tua, Kirk. I mean, I guess I could draft a third quarterback too, but we'll just say both these guys can be healthy. Saquon, Etienne, Monty, Mostert, Ford, Hill, Smith, Hollywood, Romeo Dobbs, Demarcus Robinson, Demario Douglas, Evan Ingram, Dalton Schultz. I do like this team. We'll see. All right, Cats. What are you doing? Amon-Ra, Waddle, Flowers, Higgins, Kincaid, Kenneth, Jason, J-Mo, Javante, Gus, Goff, Kendra, Rico, Gino, Bucky Irving. I mean, you're getting good enough value where you're drafting at. QB room is ugly, so I don't love this one. It's good to have some teams, I think, with crappy quarterback rooms on paper. Because we've talked about, you know, quarterbacks all night long, right? You always have those guys that surprise. But I do think you should probably take a third quarterback, and whether it's like Will Levis, Daniel Jones, Russell Wilson, just sprinkle someone else in there. Like, wasn't this the point in drafts where like CJ Stroud was going last year in Underdog? He may have even gone later. Yeah, I would take another. I mean, just I feel like with your team, quarterback and running back, you just got to go in now. I guess you need another tight end. I don't know. Don't listen to me. I'm not locked in. I'm not locked in, cats. Um, dude, I was gonna draft Johnny Smith. I'm not even lying because I have Tua. I swear I was gonna draft Johnny Smith. Maybe not this round, but that was the last pick I expected you to make. But I guess that's your tight end too, and you've been drafting him. All right, I'm gonna draft Zay Jones. Go Cardinals. I mean, I just feel like I have to draft wide receivers to finish this draft out. This is a good team if Tua and Kirk stay healthy. My tight ends show up actually. And these late round wide receivers are like super valuable here. I mean, if I did go tight end here, I guess it's Chig. Yeah, I could go quarterback, go Will Levis. Tua and Kirk aren't healthy. But truthfully, I feel like I'd rather just take. I mean, there goes Levis anyway. And there goes Chig. Yeah, like I'm just like maybe I'll take a tight end 3 to end the draft at pick 214. Will, DJ, or May, none of them are correlated, just one upside or Carr. Honestly, I like Carr. Yeah, I like Carr. Wait, is Carr available? Carr's gone. And Will Levis is gone too. I mean, I'd take Daniel Jones. I would. But yeah, I think there's an argument for Drake May and Bo Nix here. Dang, ooh, Danny Dimes is gone. So the team that had Rashid Shaheed took Derek Carr behind Stafford. They got Puka, Kyron, and Stafford together. Sick Nasty's in the house. Is good. Looking for some takes on Garrett Wilson's dynasty in a 1 QB league, or Garrett Wilson's value in a dynasty 1 QB. Very high. What Garrett Wilson's probably if you're looking at dynasty rankings, I mean, he's still top 10. So, like, just don't undersell yourself by any means. Still plenty of value. even it doesn't really matter if it's super flex or not. Like if it's just single quarterback, it doesn't matter. There's still a tremendous amount of we'd be talking about Garrett Wilson like so differently if Rodgers wasn't hurt last year. So yeah, I mean, you probably still have JJ, Chase, Lamb, St. Brown, Marvin Harrison Jr. is going to creep in there. Puka's definitely still up there, and AJ Brown I think has to be up there. But yeah, then Garrett Wilson, because then after that you're probably looking at where do you place Tyreek Hill with his age? Drake London, Malik Neighbors probably going to be in there for some people. Chris Olave, Nico Collins, Jalen Waddle. Then you're going to break into like Ayuk, Smith, Adunze Pittman, Higgins, DJ Moore. So yeah, don't undersell Garrett Wilson, regardless of if you're in Superflex or not. He's still top 10 for sure. And you could definitely argue top 8. And I think maybe we're having a different conversation if Rodgers was healthy last year. So do not undersell. He's still very, I mean, look at, and I told you guys a lot last year. I was like, please don't just like as soon as Wilson or Rodgers got hurt last year, everyone was like, you got to sell Garrett Wilson, you got to sell Brees Hall, and not in Dynasty, but like in redraft, and those guys were still very productive. I mean, Wilson was the wide receiver 26. It wasn't great, but in full PPR, he was still fine. And then Brees Hall finished as the RB2. And I was like telling you guys, like these guys still have plenty of value. And a lot of people are like, trade Garrett Wilson for anything. Like he's doing nothing. And yeah, the quarterback play was awful, but at the same of the day, at the end of the day, excuse me, like still plenty of value in full PPR. Garrett Wilson, and this is what I was saying last year, was a very, very reliable flex option, especially in full PPR. Silver, what's up, man? Thought we had a mock, not some best ball. So we did do a mock about an hour ago. And then it was requested that we did an underdog draft, which we're now wrapping up here. But so we did. If you rewind the stream, you'll see the mock. False advertisement. Yeah, the thumbnail does not match this at all. So I guess that's fair to say. But we did the mock, and now here we are. Cats begged me. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we had a great mock tonight, and now a nice underdog draft to end the stream. As I just drafted Zay Jones, Tyler Boyd, and DJ Chark. So there's my final team. Tua, Captain Kirk, Barkley, Etienne, Monty, Mostert, Ford, Tyreek Hill, Devonta Smith, Hollywood, Dobbs, Demarcus Robinson, Demario Douglas. I always do that. Always do that. Zay Jones, Tyler Boyd, DJ Chark, Evan Ingram, Dalton Schultz. So we missed Trevor Lawrence. Gets sniped, but we get the stack with Tua and Hill. I still think this is a solid team. Just had to kind of go in at wide receiver at the end because we were drafting other positions earlier on. But I like this team. As long as Tua and Kirk stay healthy, I think this team has a shot. Cats. We got Goff, Geno, Fields. I like it. Kenneth, Javonte, Gus, Kendre, Rico, Bucky Irving, Amon-Ra, Waddle, Flowers, Higgins, JSN, JMO, Kincaid, Johnny Smith, Jelani Woods. Yeah, your biggest question mark is quarterback, and then I think running back depth. Wide receivers fine. I think tight ends fine just because Kincaid's there. That's fine. How do you feel about it? Dynasty team needs help. I got the 1.1, the 1.6, the 2.1 to start the rookie draft this August. Well, what do you need help with specifically? I mean, I would probably keep those picks. 1.1. Is this a single quarterback league? You're probably taking Marvin Harrison Jr. Oh, I don't know off the top of my head, like a rookie draft order for a single quarterback league. Because I only did rookie drafts for super flex leagues. No, wait, that's not true. I'm in 2 single quarterback leagues. Who? Who would go at the 1.6? I know. I think you can get good enough value though at the 1-1, 1-6, and then 2-1. But depends on what you need help with. If you get some random 15 20 weeks out of anyone at wide receiver, it could be nice for sure. Not my favorite squad, but just need one of Javante, Gus, or Kendra to be every week starters or ping pong some TDs, and I like it. That's what I was thinking. Like, you just need those kind of lower tier running backs to hit for you. Yeah, it's scary going 6 wide receivers, right? All right, guys. Long stream for me. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. We did the bonus draft. But yeah, if you guys need anything, post on Discord and we'll get back to you. Community, we'll get back to you. And I will be back on tomorrow. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Cass, thanks for doing an underdog draft. Everyone else, thank you guys for mock drafting earlier. And that'll wrap it up. 1 QB League, 1.1 is MHJ, 1.6 might be Daniels or Dunze. That's what I was thinking of Dunze. Kyron Williams available in the rookie draft too. That's interesting. Might go ultra aggressive, just try to get. Where do you think Kyron goes? That's interesting. Yeah, post it up on Discord and we'll see what we can figure out. Have a good night, Andrea. Peace out, cats. I'll talk to you guys soon. Links are down below. Discord, Instagram. We're on TikTok now too. All the good stuff. Hit the like. And I'll talk to you guys soon. Love you guys, man. Love this community. Love the Catch fam. With that, I'll say thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, yes, odd here on the Catch. And peace.